Welcome to This Explainer. We're jumping right in today to take some really fascinating psychological concepts and break them down, all so you can truly understand the hidden patterns driving your everyday behavior. So today we are talking about a societal standard that, well, practically everyone just accepts without question. We've all been told time and time again that a perfectly clean house is the ultimate sign of discipline. You know the ones. Spotless homes, immaculate kitchens, perfectly aligned throw pillows that look like they belong in a magazine catalog. We look at that and think, wow, I wish I had their willpower. They really have their whole life put together. But think about the sheer exhaustion of maintaining that flawless standard day in and day out. What if that completely flawless house isn't actually a sign of discipline at all? What if, beneath the surface of that gleaming countertop, something entirely different is driving the scrub brush? Okay, let's dive into this and shatter the myth right out of the gate. Society constantly sells us this idea that a spotless environment is nothing more than pure willpower and highly effective time management. But the psychological reality? It's vastly different. For a lot of people, an obsessive need to keep things clean is actually a highly sophisticated survival mechanism. Your desperate urge to organize, to wipe down, to declutter, it might not be about being highly productive at all. Psychology actually suggests that this behavior is often just a desperate brain screaming for air, trying to find a much-needed sense of control in a world that feels, frankly, completely unpredictable. Today, we're going to show you what is really happening inside your nervous system when you reach for that cleaning spray.
Section 1. The Illusion of Control. Finding Stability in a Messy World.
To truly understand why we do this, we first have to look at how the human brain processes chaos. Because life is naturally messy, isn't it? It's unpredictable, it's frustrating, and honestly, it can be totally emotionally overwhelming. When your internal world, say, your career, your relationships, your finances, when that feels like it's spinning completely out of your hands, your brain starts desperately hunting for a win. It looks for a tangible problem that it can actually solve from start to finish. And that brings us to this concept of a survival mechanism. This is basically an unconscious coping behavior we use to find a sense of control and stability. Think about it. Keeping your environment perfectly clean gives you an immediate, highly visible sense of stability. It's like a giant puzzle you can actually finish. For someone who maybe feels entirely replaceable at work or totally ignored in their personal life, their home becomes this sanctuary where their standards actually matter. It's a physical way to feel grounded. But the hidden danger here is that when cleanliness becomes your absolute only source of control, you're no longer acting out of discipline. You become completely dependent on the physical act of cleaning just to feel safe in your own skin.
Now, you might be wondering, how does this actually show up? Well, have you ever noticed how you suddenly get the overwhelming urge to deep clean your baseboards or relentlessly scrub the grout in the bathroom the exact same week your boss is acting completely irrational? Or maybe right when you and your partner are going through a really rough patch? Actually, scratch that. It's not a magical cleaning habit appearing out of nowhere. That's your brain trying to vacuum the anxiety out of your life. It's taking an internal, highly complex, and unsolvable emotional problem and projecting it right onto a dirty floor that you can easily fix in 20 minutes. Let's move on to Section 2, Sensory Overload and Hidden Stress, the Toll on the Nervous System. Constantly acting out this survival mechanism isn't just physically tiring. It genuinely changes how your brain processes the physical space around you. A lot of people who feel compelled to keep their space spotless are naturally more detail-oriented. They're hypersensitive to their environments, constantly noticing minor details that the rest of us just effortlessly ignore. And this brilliantly illustrates the heavy cost of being too aware. You see, for a highly sensitive, detail-oriented person, a dirty dish left in the sink isn't just a piece of ceramic waiting to be washed. Oh no, it is an active mental task. It acts like a persistent pop-up ad in your brain that simply refuses to close, no matter how many times you try to click away. Every single item out of place creates this low-level, constant brain tension that heavily overstimulates the mind. And when you finally break down and wash that dish, boom, you get a quick, massive hit of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, for achieving an immediate result. So you get completely stuck in this incredibly addictive, endless loop of environmental tension and temporary relief. And the physical toll of this is wild. Research actually shows that physical clutter can increase cortisol levels, your body's primary stress hormone, by up to 20% in people who are highly sensitive to their environment. Let that sink in for a second. To put that into perspective, 20%. Your brain is literally releasing the exact same chemical it uses to prepare your body to physically fight a predator or flee from a burning building, all just because there is a stack of unsorted mails sitting on the dining room table. No way, right?
but it's true. This constant, agonizing chemical drip of cortisol pushes you straight into hypervigilance. That's a state of extremely high nervous system alertness where you physically and mentally cannot truly relax until the environment is absolutely pristine. You might tell yourself, oh, I'm just being productive by doing the evening chores, but really, you're desperately trying to regulate an overwhelmed nervous system. In this heightened state of alert, the mess feels like a literal physical attack on your well-being. So let's be entirely clear about what is actually happening here. You aren't cleaning to feel good. You're cleaning just to stop feeling bad.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, the identity anchor, when cleanliness defines your worth. The dark side of keeping your house clean gets even deeper when we move beyond the nervous system and look directly at the ego. Cleanliness becomes a very dangerous psychological trap when it gets totally intertwined with your identity and your self-respect. We call this the burden of strength. Many people who obsessively clean grew up playing a very specific role in their families. Maybe you were the reliable one, the unusually mature one, or the designated family fixer. Because of that deeply ingrained role, you carry this immense, exhausting internal pressure to maintain stability for everyone else at all costs. You mistakenly link a clean house to being a good person or a successful adult. So you keep the house flawless, not out of discipline, but out of a deep-seated, quiet panic. You're terrified that if your external environment falls apart, it proves to the entire world that you are internally falling apart. It becomes this exhausting, never-ending approval-seeking behavior, where your very self-worth is tightly bound to the shine on your floorboards. I want you to honestly answer a question for yourself right now. Really take a moment and think about it. If your house was undeniably messy for a full 24 hours, we're talking dishes stacked high in the sink, laundry dumped all over the couch, visible dust on the shelves, would you still feel like a capable, worthy adult? If your answer to that question was no, or hey, even if you just hesitated for a split second, then you need to realize something fundamentally important. Cleanliness isn't your habit, it's your armor. You are strapping it on every single morning to protect yourself from feeling inadequate, from feeling wildly out of control, or from feeling like an utter failure in the eyes of the world. And let's completely validate that right now. Wearing heavy, clanking metal armor 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is incredibly draining. It is absolutely no wonder you always feel so completely exhausted. Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 4, from compulsion to clarity, breaking the cycle. All right, so we've identified the severe agitation of the problem, the hidden stress toll, and that devastating identity trap. Now, how do we actually fix it? Well, we are going to look at neuroplasticity, which is your brain's incredible, scientifically proven ability to biologically rewire itself, and how we can use it to find a healthy, sustainable balance. Because of this neuroplasticity, we can actively break free from the dark side of this habit and move from anxious compulsion to genuine mental clarity. Here's your actionable, identity-driven roadmap. We've got 3 distinct steps. First, change the core motivation. Second, actively train the brain to handle discomfort. And third, address the root cause. Let's explore these so you can start applying them immediately today. Step 1 is all about shifting the why. You have to stop cleaning simply to avoid feeling anxious. Instead, you've got to start consciously framing cleaning as a deliberate act of mental space maintenance. The physical sweeping or wiping, that stays exactly the same, but the intention behind it changes the whole shebang. When you start cleaning, tell yourself a new mantra. Say it slowly. I am someone who values my peace, not just the floor. You are purposefully curating an environment that serves and protects your mind, rather than frantically trying to scrub away your rising anxiety with a damp sponge. Step 2 is a brilliant neuroplasticity exercise called uncertainty tolerance. Now, fair warning, this is going to feel incredibly uncomfortable, and that is exactly the point. You are going to purposely leave one small area of your home messy for just 1 hour. That's it. Leave the coffee cup sitting right there on the living room table. Leave your jacket draped haphazardly over the dining room chair. You're going to feel a literal physical itch in your hands to just get up and put that jacket away. But sitting with that itch and letting it pass without acting on it is exactly how your brain heals. By tolerating that mild discomfort, you're actively retraining your neural pathways. You're providing undeniable proof to your nervous system that the world does not end and you do not lose your intrinsic worth just because there's a dish sitting in the sink. Step 3 requires a bit of brave introspection. You've got to address the internal chaos. The next time you feel that sudden, frantic urge to tear through the house and deep clean the kitchen, force yourself to pause for 10 seconds and ask, what real problem am I avoiding right now? Are you upset about a tense conversation you had with a coworker earlier? Are you stressed about a looming financial deadline? Are you feeling quietly disconnected from your partner? Awareness is always the vital first step to true, lasting transformation. If you can clearly identify the real root cause of your control issues, you can finally stop taking out your emotional frustrations on your living room rug. So, the crucial point is a total paradigm shift. We have to move away from relying on a survival reflex, where a slightly messy environment triggers an immediate cortisol spike and completely dictates your mood for the entire evening. Instead, we're aiming for intentional action. Look, yes, a beautifully organized room absolutely calms the human mind. There's absolutely no denying the benefits of a tidy space, but the ultimate objective is to make that order an intentional, joyous choice. You want to curate an environment that supports you, comforts you, and uplifts you, rather than operating your entire life from a panicked, reactionary reflex. Please let this sink in and give yourself a little grace here. Cleanliness is merely a tool. It is absolutely not a character trait. It doesn't define your value to society, to your family, or to yourself. You are not a lazy or failing person if you have a messy, chaotic day where absolutely nothing gets put away. And conversely, you aren't perfect or inherently better than anyone else just because your house looks like a museum. It's simply a helpful tool you can use to make your life a little smoother when you actually have the energy to use it. The more you consciously decode your own mind and understand these deeply hidden psychological patterns, the more true freedom you gain in your daily life. Once you finally realize that your brain has been utilizing extreme cleanliness as a secret coping mechanism, you finally gain the power to choose. You get to choose when it's genuinely time to clean and when it's time to just leave the mess right where it is, sit down on the couch, breathe deeply, and finally rest. You take back the control of your life from the chores. Which leaves us with this. You can scrub every surface, perfectly align every object, and polish every window until it shines brilliantly in the sun. But true stability, true worth, and true calm will never be found on a perfectly clean floor. Peace is internal. So the next time you frantically reach for that sponge, ask yourself, are you actually cleaning the house or are you just trying to scrub away your thoughts? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.